The Hill, 31st of July 2023, stopping our drone addiction caused by Chinese spyware. An international threat has been created by Chinese-made drones infested with malware that sends position and intelligence information back to China. During a recent trip to Beijing, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told her Chinese hosts that, like the Chinese government, the United States puts national security needs before economic concerns. Therefore, despite the financial expenses, the United States maintains import and export restrictions on commerce with the People's Republic of China, PRC. The same factors should compel Congress to enact legislation like the American Security Drone Act banning federal government agencies from purchasing or utilizing drones provided by adversarial regimes. Due to all of China's subsidies, Chinese companies control a large portion of the global market for unmanned aerial systems, UAS. Chinese companies like Beijing Innovations, DJI, and Autel Robotics, which have a sizable domestic market, generous government subsidies, inexpensive labor and components, laxly enforced environmental and safety regulations, and a willingness to forego initial profits to erect barriers to entry for rivals, have emerged as the leading suppliers of drones to the United States and other nations. The security of Americans is in danger due to an over-reliance on drones made in China. All significant Chinese tech companies are under tight control by the CCP, which is now in power. In addition to the fact that many of its executives must follow CCP orders, Chinese law gives government security agencies the authority to request access to any Chinese company's data at any time. After realizing these dangers, federal, state, and other U.S. leaders have attempted to lessen this hazard bipartisanly. The use of government funds to buy and utilize drones built in China is partially prohibited by the Departments of Defense, Commerce, and other federal agencies. State governments have started copying this trend in increasing numbers. Congress has also held companies responsible for their involvement in China's human rights violations. DJI drones have been used by the Chinese Communist Party to patrol Uyghur detention camps and aid Russian military operations in Ukraine. The implementation of these defenses will take some time. However, while being aware of the risks associated with so many Americans depending on Chinese drones, some analysts are pessimistic about getting out of this habit. Those who think it is permissible to rely on Chinese-made drones have drawn some dubious inferences and conclusions. For instance, it is untrue to state that a study conducted in March 2020 by the consulting company Booz Allen Hamilton granted DJI drones a perfect score when it comes to cybersecurity. In that study, platforms and threats were only superficially assessed, and it was acknowledged that this framework should not be considered a comprehensive analysis of all cybersecurity risks for any platform. Additionally, the study skipped over customized exploits, such as reverse engineering, and it suggested more research into file transfer protocol flaws. But most importantly, the study warned, an adversary with malicious intent could potentially utilize this service to exfiltrate data, manipulate configuration, or upload custom software. In reality, even inexperienced hobbyists have been able to hack DJI drones to bypass electronic barriers preventing them from flying in prohibited airspace, such as the no-fly zones around Washington, as well as other safety and security measures. Security experts have had access to private information on the drone's users, including the American military and government, and their activities. Bipartisan senators called on the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency in March to evaluate the security risk associated with possible DJI mapping of the nation's critical infrastructure. Even though Chinese drones presently rule the market, this could change. Hundreds of the drones that the U.S. and its Western partners are creating and producing are currently being used to defend Ukraine. Government organizations should repurpose the funds they use to acquire Chinese drones for operations requiring high security to promote innovation and procure American-made equipment. They should also prevent municipal and state governments from using federal funding to buy PRC drones. Taxpayers shouldn't finance deploying risky technologies allied with a dangerous rival. Similar strategies helped the U.S. go from relying on Russian-made space launch vehicles to American private sector space fleets, and they are currently supporting the restoration of the domestic solar industry and maintaining U.S. leadership in developing technology industries. If America's allies collaborate through bilateral alliances and multilateral action inside transatlantic and trans-Pacific institutions, including NATO and the G7, these measures may be even more successful. Expanding the market for non-Chinese drones while encouraging private sector innovation will result in lower costs, more diversity, and the eventual weaning of Americans from their addiction to Chinese espionage drones.